On July 4, 2018, a paramedic was rushing through the corridors of Salisbury District Hospital. In England, when his supervisor physically blocked his path, her face was pale, her expression one of pure terror. She asked him if he had responded to a specific emergency call at an apartment on Muggleton Road a few days prior. Confused, the paramedic said yes. It had seemed like a routine, albeit tragic, drug overdose. Supervisor didn't explain immediately. Instead, she ordered him to strip right there in the hallway. She told him to take off every single piece of gear he was wearing, bag it as a biohazard, and get into the decontamination shower immediately, because there was a very real chance that the uniform he was wearing was covered in one of the deadliest substances known to man. What they didn't know yet was that they had just walked into the middle of international geopolitical crisis, and the weapon used wasn't a bomb or a gun, but something far more insidious. Hello again, welcome to Risnan Story Channel. This time I will tell a story, the Salisbury poisoning tragedy. We have to go back a few days to sunny Friday afternoon, June 29th. Dawn Sturgis, a 44-year-old mother of three, was sitting on a blanket in a park in Salisbury. Dawn's life has been incredibly difficult. She had battled severe alcoholism for years, largely due to an undiagnosed bipolar disorder. She lived in a therapeutic group home and struggled to hold down a job. But recently, things were looking up. She was finally medicated, feeling stable, and planning to move into her own apartment. She was turning a corner. Sitting with her in the park was her boyfriend of 60 months, Charlie Rowley. On the paper, they were a chaotic match. Charlie was unemployed, heroin addict with criminal record. So story is very chaos. Many feared he would drag down back down, but in reality, they adore each other. They were each other's bright spot in a harsh world. Dawn was particularly excited because the very next day she was due to attend a large family gathering where she would reunite with her youngest daughter. She desperately wanted to show her family that she was getting better. But that Friday afternoon, in the park, the couple was fighting. Charlie and some friends had taken drugs earlier, and he was acting obnoxiously. Dawn had bought some her day to fresh up her look for the big family meeting in the next day. Charlie, thinking it was funny, took the dye and smeared it all over his beard and eyebrows. Dawn was furious, not just about the wasted dye, but because Charlie would look deranged meeting her family. It felt like self-sabotage. She felt he didn't respect how important this fresh start was to her. Upset, she stormed out of the park, leaving him behind. By 10 p.m. at that night, they were back at Charlie's apartment. The tension had cooled. Dawn had used the remaining day on her own hair and spoken to her mother on the phone, confirming plans for tomorrow. She was tired. Charlie's apartment was a cluttered mess. He was a hoarder who constantly scavenged things from dumpster and the street. Dawn navigated through the piles of junk to take her nightly bipolar medication, then lay down on the sofa and drifted off to sleep, hopeful for the next day. The morning of Saturday, June 30, started with promise. Dawn woke up with a mad hangover, but she was in a good spirit. Charlie joined her in the living room, seeming much more lucid than the day before. He told her he had a surprise for her. He hurried into the kitchen and returned with a small sealed box. Dawn's face lit up. Given their financial situation, gifts were rare luxury. She opened the box and gasped. Inside was a bottle Premier Jour by Nina Ricci, a very expensive designer perfume. The bottle was full, sealed in cellophane. She could not believe Charlie could afford such a thing. Don was touched by the gesture. It was a sign of his love, a peace offering after the fight. In her excitement, she immediately opened the bottle. She spread liquid onto both of her wrists and rubbed them together, inhaling the scent. Smell lovely, she said, smiling. She handed the bottle back to Charlie for safekeeping and went to the mirror to start her makeup for the family gathering. 10 minutes later, the nightmare began. Dawn was sitting on the sofa applying foundation when a sudden intense headache gripped her. It wasn't a normal hangover headache. Within seconds, she felt dizzy and began sweating profusely. I feel really weird, Charlie, she managed to say. He offered her painkillers, but she refused, fearing they would upset her stomach since she'd already taken her meds. She stumbled towards the bedroom, needing cold water on her face. So Charlie, still in the living room, heard the water running. Then he heard her climb into the empty bathtub. He assumed she was just trying to cool down from the hangover. But then a sound came from the bedroom that chilled him to the bone. It was a strange, wet gurgling noise. Charlie rushed to the bedroom door and threw it open. The sight paralyzed him. Dawn was lying fully clothed in the dry tub. Her body was rigid, her eyes were rolling back to her head, and thick, wet foam was bubbling out of her mouth. She was seizing violently. Panic overtook Charlie. He dragged Dawn out of the tub onto the floor. She was slim and rapidly turning blue. He called 999. The operator, hearing the description, immediately instructed him begin CPR. For 19 agonizing minutes, Charlie performed chest compression on the woman he loved, desperate to keep her alive. He said. When paramedics finally arrived, the scene they walked into, a cluttered apartment known for drug use, a comatose patient, a frantic boyfriend, led to immediate assumption: overdose. They administered Narcan. Narcan is an opioid reversal drug, but it had no effect. They eventually managed to restrain our heart, but she remained critical. As they loaded her into the ambulance, Charlie was distraught. He needed to go with her, but he was also an addict facing a crisis. If he went to the hospital now, he would be there for hours, and withdrawal sickness wouldn't set in soon. He had to get right before he could be of any use of down. Charlie and his friend Sam hurried to pharmacy so Charlie could pick up a methadone prescription to stave off withdrawals. They returned to the apartment around 3:30 p.m. to pack a bag for the hospital. Back inside the apartment, now Charlie began to feel incredibly ill. The heat was intense and sweat was pouring off him just as it had of dawn. He went to take a shower to cool down, but it only made things worse. When he looked in the mirror, he saw his pupils were constricted to tiny pinpricks. He stumbled back into the living room, his heart racing uncontrollably, abyssal terrifying paranoia seized his mind. He looked at his friend Sam and became convinced Sam had done this to him. "You poisoned me," Charlie yelled, trying to lunge at his friend. But as he moved, his leg gave out, his mouth filled with an uncontrollable torrent of saliva and foam. He collapsed against the wall, his body locking up in a rigid seizure, just as Dawn had hours earlier. Sam, terrified, grabbed the phone to call 999 again for the same address in a single day. At Salisbury District Hospital, Dr. Stephen Jacks was now overseeing two patients from the same address with identical horrifying symptoms: pinprick pupils, excessive sweating and salivation, respiratory failure, and seizure. Initially, the working theory remained drug overdose, but the toxicology screens came back. Charlie tested positive for heroin and another substance, which was expected, but Dawn tests came back completely clean. No illegal drugs. This changed everything. If it was an overdose, what it was? Dr. Jukes considered a carbon monoxide leak at the apartment. But Sam hadn't gotten sick. He considered pesticide poisoning, perhaps a bad batch of drugs cut with rat poison. He even interviewed Dawn's devastated family, who had gathered at the hospital, heartbroken that their reunion was cancelled. They insisted Dawn wasn't using drugs and begged the doctors not to give up on her. Dr. Jukes was baffled. The symptoms were severe nerve trauma, but the cause was invisible. He ordered more specialist blood tests to be sent to a defense laboratory. For the space, Don was on a life support. Showing no brain activity, Charlie was in an induced coma on a ventilator. On July 4th, Dukes was walking down hospital corridor when a lab technician sprinted toward him out of breath holding a piece of paper. This, this is the truth. Dr. Juice took the result from the specialist lab. As he scanned the document, the blood drained from his face. It wasn't pesticide. It wasn't drugs. The substance in Don and Charles Lee's blood was identified as Novichok. Remember this. Novichok. Novichok is not something you encounter in normal life. It is an incredibly rare military-grade nerve agent developed by the Soviet Union during the Cold War. It is one of the deadliest chemical weapons ever created. A single drop of the size of grain of salt is enough to kill an adult within minutes. Dr. Jacques immediately understood the gravity of the situation. This was no longer a medical case, it was an act of war of British soil. He immediately declared a major incident, triggering the response that led to the paramedic supervisor stopping the college in the halfway. Salisbury was immediately locked down. Counter-terrorism units and military personnel in full hazmat suits descended on Muggleton Road. They realized that everyone, the paramedics, the police, the doctor, the neighbors, could have been exposed from this Novichok. Tragically, on July 8, Dawn Sturges' life support was withdrawn and she died. She was the innocent victim of a weapon designed for spies and soldiers. Charlie, against all odds, began to slowly recover, though he was left with several long-term health issues and the crushing guilt of having given down the item that killed her, the perfume. But the question remained, where did they find a Soviet-era chemical weapon? Investigators scoured the city, they searched the park, shops, and finally they returned to Charlie's apartment. It was a forensic nightmare due to hoarding, but they had to find the source. On July 11, investigators inside Charlie Clark's apartment found it sitting on the kitchen counter. Amidst dirty dishes and random junk was the small box of the Nina Ricci perfume. They carefully packaged it and sent it to the defense lab. The results were terrifying. The bottle didn't contain perfume, it contained pure concentrated Novichok. There was enough nerve agent in that single perfume bottle to kill thousands of people. The piece finally fell into place 3 months prior, in March 2018. A former Russian double agent named Sergei Skripal and his daughter Yulia had been poisoned in Salisbury with Novichok. They survived. The Russian intelligence agent sent to assassinate them had smuggled the poison into the UK inside that counterfeit perfume bottle to avoid detection at customs. After using it to poison the Skripal's door handle, the assassins simply threw the expensive looking bottle away into charity donating bin or dumpster somewhere in Salisbury. And that is where Charlie Rowley, a man known for scavenging through bins for treasure, found it. He thought he had found an incredibly expensive gift for the woman he loved. Instead, he had picked up a discarded weapon of mass destruction. Downstairs spread it directly into her skin, believing it was luxury scent, and became the only fatality of the Salisbury poisoning. A completely innocent woman caught in the crossfire of international espionage. The story of Dawn Sturgis is a heartbreaking reminder of how quickly ordinary lives can be intersected by global events. It's a story of a simple laughing gesture turned into a supreme tragedy by the carelessness of state-sponsored assassins. If you found this story is gripping and terrifying as I did, please hit subscribe button and ring the notification. We dive into the strange, dark and mysterious several times a week. And I don't want you to miss the next one. Thank you for joining the Rislan Story channel. Peace and out.